name is Lon Safko, co-author of the Social Media Bible, published by John Wiley & Sons, the most comprehensive book ever written on the subject of social media. And today we are here with Stephanie Ichinose, and she's the Director of Communications for Yelp. And today we're going to be talking about Yelp and social networks and all other things social media. So Stephanie, it's awesome to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest in Yelp.
Yeah, this is going to be great. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, what your background is, what you do at Yelp?
Sure. So I am the Director of Communications here at Yelp, and within my world I manage all sort of media relations and internal communications for the company. Okay,
and didn't you have an interesting background as well?
I did. So I've been with the company now for more than 2.5 years, and prior to that I managed a PR team that was responsible for the marketplace businesses over at Yahoo, and that encompassed Yahoo Local as well.
So you know Kakal Shavastava?
Yes, I do. We worked together in the past. That's correct.
Oh, okay, cool. And I think the site is absolutely fascinating. And really, when you talk about social media, really the first thing that you're talking about is user-generated content. And that's what Yelp is all about. Can you tell us, the listeners, a little bit about what Yelp is?
Sure. So Yelp is a site where people read and write reviews about local businesses. And what makes Yelp unique is that it's really a community made up of, real people just like yourself and myself, who are just super passionate about sharing their local experiences. And so really what we hope is that, Yelp will help capture a lot of the insights that people have about their local neighborhoods and such, and in exchange help the broader community connect with really great local businesses.
Okay, so it's a review site of sorts?
It is, right. So anybody can log on to Yelp, create an account profile, and start to review businesses, that they've experienced in their cities. And the profile really acts sort of like a lifestyle blog of sorts, and so individuals, write things that they experience, small businesses that they encounter and whatnot. And it really functions sort of like bringing word of mouth online and capturing all those conversations and the insightful little bits of information that make a business special.
So what we're really talking about is you kind of built this trusted network of people that go in and they rate restaurants, they review mechanics, they review different kinds of services. And I'll be honest, any time that I'm going to hire somebody, even if it's a dry cleaner, rather than just walking in off the street, the first thing that I'll do is I'll go to my trusted network and find out who likes this restaurant or who likes this dry cleaner. So that's kind of what's driving it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. When we watch some of our most active Yelpers, I think there's this notion that they are contributing, right, to the broader sort of community of San Francisco, of their particular city, whether it's Dallas, Austin, Chicago, wherever they may live. There's this notion of being able to support local businesses, help share that information so that others who are out there that might stumble across the information would find it helpful, and really just sort of become a part of a local community of individuals who are passionate about sharing their experiences. And so there is a network part of it, which is where you sign up on Yelp, you plug into a community of people who are like-minded and whatnot. But then the broader effect is that that information is then seen by so many more individuals. Where we have 14 million unique visitors to the site in the past 30 days, and that number continues to grow. We're really excited about that. And we currently have well north of 3.5 million reviews that have been written by Yelpers and contributed to the site. And so what that tells us is that, there's a huge audience of folks out there that are looking for this type of information, and where, they're able to utilize Yelp as a resource, that's great, and where they're able to tap into the individual voices of the community, that's even better.
Those are really incredible numbers. So do I get an understanding correctly that you kind of took it like the Craigslist model, where they just launched it in San Francisco, and then when they had a proven successful model, you then began launching it in city after city, each of the major metropolitan areas throughout the U.S.?
That's correct. Yeah, actually, the co-founders, really looked at Craigslist model and figured out, okay, what did they do? What were part of their kind of their rollout and how did they achieve the success that they've achieved. And so there are some pages from their playbook, for instance, focusing, and looking at individual markets and going deep, which is primarily what we did in 2005.
And obviously successful. I'm going to say those numbers again. 14 million Yelpers, which, by the way, I think Yelpers is awesome.
14 million unique visitors to the site.
Unique visitors. That's incredible. And I love the term Yelpers. I think that's just cute. And we're looking at 3.5 million reviews.
That's correct. Yeah.
Holy.
And I think roughly 2 million of those have been posted to the site within the last 12 months.
Wow.
So within the last year. So, I think what's been interesting to watch is part of that is fueled obviously by our growth into new markets. We currently have 21 actively managed communities across the U.S., and those are, as you would imagine, in the major cities across the United States. But it's been fascinating to watch how each city sort of ignites and how the communities are all very different, right? And they all have their different cultural tones and whatnot. But underneath it all, there is, kind of the same common threads of, wow, I'm able to finally jump on my soapbox here and share all of my favorites. A little bit being ego-driven, perhaps, but then the second part of that being about contributing back to the community in a meaningful way that's obviously also heard by others.
And that's kind of one of the themes that I also heard. We interviewed the founder of WikiHow, and we were talking about wikis, and I was absolutely amazing where he has literally 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people that are willing to come in and actually donate their time, verified information, verify links, really because what they just want to do is contribute to this knowledge base, this information. They really want to be part of the community.
Yeah, I think what's been interesting to watch is that, folks have made the analogy to Yelp as like, oh, you're a social network. And the way that we look at it is actually we see ourselves more as a local community site, if you will. And that's because, when you log into a social network, you're effectively, creating your account and inviting your social network to participate and engage, and finding folks who may already exist on that particular platform. Whereas in Yelp, really, it's more about joining a community of like-minded individuals who, guess what, happen to live within the parameters of your geography, right, your city, and you all have a common interest that, is kind of what Yelp is all about. That's local businesses and services. And so we're sort of defining what that, the community discussion is, and you kind of plug into that and meet with others. And so, there have been questions about do Yelpers meet offline and that sort of thing, and they absolutely do. It's partly because we all live within the same city, and we're all very close together, and people establish affinities or interests in particular types of businesses, say, Italian food or the wine, people who enjoy, wines and a particular type of wine. And so often what we're finding is that Yelpers will organize groups and then meet offline and get together. And so there's a really interesting social element there. And, all of these things speak very strongly to this notion of, communities, and we're excited to be able to support that.
I really like the fact that you bring out that this is not as much a social networking site as is community-based, because that was the feeling that I got when I first had gone into Yelp. I thought it was awesome. I could type in Phoenix, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know that restaurant existed, and look at all the 5 stars. But then I could actually get it down to my individual community, Gilbert, which is 23 miles to the east. And then as I was thinking about it, with my SEO, SEM background, geotagging really is kind of an afterthought of something that we just kind of add on to web pages in the past, just to try to get that local flavor. But really, when I got into Gilbert, which is my own little community, it really was all about Gilbert. It was no longer about like my LinkedIn or professional network. This was what's happening in my hometown. Right.
Yeah. And that's what's illuminating. We've heard time and again that Yelpers or people who visit the site perhaps more casually just to find information, they may have lived in a particular city for all their life, right? And still they're finding new businesses that they never knew existed, or Yelp and the reviews that they're finding on Yelp are inspiring them to go out and try something that kind of is outside of their comfort zone, or perhaps, a little bit further than they would drive for, say, a pasta dinner.
Right.
But they're exploring and they're discovering new businesses because they have a bit of a kind of a preview into that, right? Like the Yelp community is really, wow, this place is absolutely worth the 30-minute drive to, the next town over. You should check it out. It would be worth, your while. And so we're finding that Yelpers write back in saying, wow, it's been extremely powerful in helping me find great businesses. And, spending my money and my dollars with locally owned operations that, is something I enjoy doing. And I now have the confidence to be able to, extend myself a little bit beyond what I normally would the business that I would normally support, and try new things. So that's been an interesting phenomenon.
Definitely the new things, because every time my wife and I go out to dinner, it's where do you want to go? It's like, I don't know, where do you want to go? I don't want to go to the same old place. But then we're driving around and it was like, you want to go to that place in the shopping center? Well, I don't know. I'm a little bit afraid of that. I don't know if the food is going to be good. And we always end up back at the same restaurant after driving around for 45 minutes. But after I got into Yelp, I was like, oh my gosh, look, here's a 5-star restaurant that people rated, and it's only right down the street. And now I could save anywhere from a half an hour to 45-minute drive time in circles.
Right, and with the price of gas where it is today, that's a big deal.
I could leave a bigger tip.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you hit on this notion that, being able to identify what kind of just in broad strokes what the Yelp community thinks about a business is helpful. What I think you'll find over time, though, is that being able to then dive down into the individual profiles of people who are talking about a business will even further refine those picks for you. So what Yelp is built entirely kind of on this notion of community and then individuals as well, right? So my profile page has some general information about me. It's fun, lighthearted stuff, my favorite movies, books, where I grew up, my interests in general. And so from there, you immediately get a quick snapshot of like, okay, what kind of person is Stephanie? And then you're able to look at all of my reviews, which serve in a way as a lifestyle blog, sort of. Like as I go out to eat at the 5 or 6 restaurants that I might try this week, I'll write reviews of those, and you get a sense of that. Everybody has different preferences and tastes. And so if you were following my blog and you decided at some point, like, hey, wow, you know what, I have a lot in common with this type of person, and she's rating and reviewing things in a similar nature that I would, wow, I want to kind of, select her to be one of my favorites, and you can almost follow that individual over time so that, you're sort of building a small set of preferences on Yelp. And that way, when you're doing searches, when you're logged in, anyhow, you'll be able to kind of refine that. So now these same voices are pointing you to the directions or the businesses that they've tried. And we believe that's important because understanding what a profile or a person is all about really helps instill an additional layer of trust and value, quite frankly, in the information that they're providing.
And that's a really interesting point. I didn't even think about it. I was just looking at the restaurants, and I was reading the different reviews. But you're right, that if I find somebody who reviews a particular restaurant, and they have basically the same style, same taste, same likes, dislikes, and we have something in common, I'll want to go back in and see other restaurants that they review, because I could kind of jump right into similar restaurants that I know that I'm going to have the same success with.
Right.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, for myself, and when I use the site in 2 different manners, just for the purposes of, keeping in touch with how things are running across the site. But I will utilize my logged in profile when I'm doing searches for personally, right? Like I want to find something, a great seamstress or whatever, and I have all of my favorite sets. So I know that when I'm searching for businesses, folks that I've been following for a while, their reviews will pop up if these are businesses that they've rated and reviewed. So it definitely helps out quite a bit.
So, and we keep using restaurants as an example, but really Yelp is about every type of service or product company.
That's correct. Now, I'd argue that probably in Gilbert, where we're just seeing communities start to build out there, it's probably still in its early stages, which means that you probably have quite a few restaurants as kind of the reviewed businesses currently on Yelp Gilbert. What happens over time is that the other categories, such as retail, spas and beauty, health and medical, local services like plumbers and
auto mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. Those will round out. And again, that goes back to this notion that Yelp does really serve, in a way, as like a lifestyle blog. And so, I don't know, how many times did you go out to eat this week?
Well, we usually go at least once or twice.
At least once or twice. And you may go to a mechanic.
Yeah, maybe once a month or even not even that, hopefully.
Right, hopefully, right, if things are all running smoothly.
Yeah.
So it follows the same patterns, right? Like we're writing about the things that we experience on a regular basis, and then, oops, I have to go to the dentist to get my tooth pulled, or I need my water heater broke, and I need to get a plumber or somebody in here to fix that quickly. Those occurrences happen less frequently.
Okay.
So over time, what you'll find is that the Yelp reviews will reflect all those other services and businesses that people are utilizing, but they don't happen immediately.
That's pretty cool. I never thought about it, but you're absolutely right. When people, the database is going to populate at about the same rate as we, as individuals, use each of those different services.
Right. And the interesting thing is when we take a look at, Yelp overall, right? We look at all of the reviews and we look at our category breakdown. What we're finding is that roughly 34% of the businesses reviewed on Yelp are restaurants. Mm-hmm. And 34% is a number that is a lot smaller than I think a lot of people, guess.
Yeah.
It's followed by category, the shopping category, which it comprises about 23% of the reviewed businesses. And then there's beauty and fitness, which drops off at around 8%, and arts and entertainment at 7%, and then home and local services at around 7%. So it really, the distribution of the type of reviews really varies and spans a lot of different categories. And where most people think we're just restaurants, we actually have a lot more to offer.
Yeah, those are really good statistics. And I would have thought, the first thing I thought of when I thought about Yelp as restaurants, I would have thought it would have been well over 50%, maybe even 60, 70% of the reviews.
Right.
So that does really make it more useful.
It's been fascinating. I think, restaurants are easy. They're the low-hanging fruit for us because we are, consuming them on a very regular basis.
Yeah, a couple times a week.
But we find that the Yelpers are truly passionate about sharing everything that they consume locally, and so, therein falls all of the other local services, spas, salons, nail, manicurists and pedicurists, that sort of thing. Those other categories definitely round out nicely.
Wow.
And that's our goal, really. I mean, it's all about connecting people with great local businesses.
And that's an admirable goal. I mean, really, is to build the local communities and have the people in those communities actually help build those communities. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think what's been interesting is we've been, community is obviously key for us, and we do the best that we can to support the local communities. I don't know that there's a lot that goes into sort of this notion of building it necessarily. It's more supporting the folks who are, interested in sharing information.
That's a really good point. In my career, I've built about 10 different companies, and most of them have been either national or international. And basically, it was kind of easy as far as the marketing because you just throw it out to the world. Where if you asked me to build a company like Yelp, I would think that there would be some unique challenges. How do I get into every little teeny bedroom community across America? But obviously, you're doing it. Has most of your marketing advertising successes been viral, word of mouth?
Yes, that's correct.
That says a lot about your product.
That's correct. I mean, I think it also goes back to, the type of folks who are Yelping, right? So you would imagine within your circle of friends, you may be the person, Lon, but there's probably one or two individuals out of, say, 15 to 20 that they're the go-to person for, hey, what do we do Friday night, or where do we go to eat? Mm-hmm. Or, they're always dialed into what's happening in the city, where the new openings are, the new buzzworthy, establishments to check out. Sure. And those are a lot of the same folks, very social creatures who are the ones who are doing a lot of Yelping. They're really dialed into the social scene. So they're not necessarily glued behind their computer writing reviews kind of in some dark corner. In fact, they're getting out there. They are experiencing all the new and hot sort of places and even the off-beaten path sort of establishments as well. Mm-hmm. And then they come back and they write about it and they share their experience. And so it's been fascinating to see how, those same types of folks then turn around and share with their friends, oh, check out my Yelp reviews, right? So there has been this very viral element there of, kind of the marketing buzz around Yelp. And I think a lot of it also contributes to the fact that many of the Yelpers are also very vocal and very, outgoing tastemakers themselves.
And I like that. That's absolutely true. The influencers are what they call mavens.
Right.
If I want to see a movie, I know who I'm going to call. Or if I want a restaurant recommendation, I know who I'm going to call. And if I need an auto mechanic, I have someone else for that. And they are influencers because they understand the latest information and they save you a lot of trouble by going to the right source.
Right, absolutely.
So they are.
And those are the folks that, offline we would turn to, right?
Yeah.
I know I would, like, hey, where's the best place for, movie and a dinner, and it needs to be quick, or, whatever your requirements are. And they know exactly which direction to point you in. And so it's been interesting to watch how that has played out online as well.
Wow. When we spoke in the past, one of the things that kind of came up, which really seems to be a trend in all of the social media conversations that I'm having, whether it's comment marketing or advertising or social networking, is the influence that cell phone technology is having on social media, and particularly on Yelp. Can you speak just a little bit to that?
Sure. So in 2006, it was like mid-2006, we launched our Yelp mobile site. That's mobile.yelp.com. And there were a handful of folks who, started to access the site through their mobile device. Fast forward a year later to the launch of the iPhone. And we started to see an interesting trend, and that was that a lot of our direct traffic was starting to come in, increasingly more direct traffic was starting to come in, specifically from the iPhone device. Mm-hmm. Then they announced their, SDK, and we immediately jumped on that and said, wow, there is, the holy grail of local really is in that mobile environment, right? Like if I'm walking down the street and I'm in a neighborhood that I'm not familiar with, and I need to know where the ATM is, and I need to know where a great, Chinese restaurant is.
Wow.
If I'm able to look that up on the go in a very easy and quick manner and find the best restaurant, that's golden.
Yeah.
So we developed Yelp for iPhone and launched that back in July with all the other thousands of apps that launched.
Right.
It's free. And since then, we've continued to see just, the usage of the application, continue to rise.
Wow.
What's interesting to note also is that the highest, traffic that we've seen coming in from those particular devices is on the weekend, which, surprise, surprise, right? People are out and about, and they're looking for information about where to go. So it's been a really interesting phenomenon. I think as, the iPhone is just one example, and as more smartphones come about, as, the interface becomes easier for consumers to use, it will continue to drive the amount of interest around, applications or accessing content, local content specifically, that's valuable and meaningful and easily accessible.
Well, and making it mobile, I think you're absolutely right. What a great application of Yelp. I mean, getting back to my wife and my typical going out to dinner, 45 minutes circling the hood scenario, I would love to be able to, at 20 minutes into this circling, be able to pull up my iPhone and just say, where is a good restaurant, and actually be able to actually have my wife read the reviews so she can tell us where we're going to go to dinner. But how cool is that to have it all at your fingertips at the moment that you need it in the exact geographic location that you also need it?
Absolutely. And this whole notion of, kind of being able to identify and pinpoint where you are via either whether it's, triangulation or GPS, right? The new technologies that are available makes it that much easier, removes that additional step of having to enter your intersection or your address or wherever you may be. Because sometimes we don't always know that, right?
Yeah.
You're driving down the highway and you're like, I want to access this information, but I'm not really exactly sure where I am. The new location-aware devices are really making it that much easier for folks to say, okay, just show me all the coffee shops with Wi-Fi in the area.
Wow.
And boom, you've got it. You're like, okay, that's, a walking map. It's like 2 blocks down, and I didn't know it existed there. And so you're, it's making kind of your navigation of a particular city that much easier.
That's amazing to have that right at your fingertips.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm one of the geeks who ran out day one and purchased not day one, but I picked up the 3G.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting in terms of how it's changed my usage of local information and just information in general. But in particular to local, there are different. It has actually increased the consumption of information I'm going after.
Yeah, because it's so useful and it's so incredibly handy and easy.
Easy, yeah.
Well, and then it gets back to another question: is what is your business model? Are you using the freemium type model? I mean, how do you cover the overhead?
Right. So advertising is the very short and simple answer to that.
Okay.
And so the majority of our advertising is comprised of locally owned businesses.
Good.
That want to enhance their business page. We add on tack on bells and whistles to their business profile page, and then they're also able to, if they're interested in it, an impressions-based program across Yelp. So kind of similar to Google search, right? Like one search ad at the top that they can purchase, and it falls basically within the category.
Okay.
So if I'm a sushi restaurant, someone does a search for sushi, I can get an impression there at the top of the page. And very similar to all sorts of search ads, it's clearly marked as such and whatnot. And then the other portion of our advertising is with major brands. So, national brands like Toyota or Amex and folks like that who are interested in bringing a display campaign to the Yelp community in particular cities in which they're able to really target a specific demographic.
So the great thing that you're saying about this, again, like so many social media tools, is that because it's supported by advertisement, which we're all accustomed to, all of the services that we've just talked about through the entire interview is free to the users.
That's correct, yes. And then the one distinction between Yelp and other, sort of ad formats is that we, especially for the local business owner, it's important to make the distinction that the search ads that appear or when they enhance their business page, right, any sort of program that they participate in on the site is always tied directly to their reputation. So let's say you're a 5-star business, you have 250 reviews, fantastic. All of that appears in that short little summary that you see of the business. Likewise, if you have 3 stars and perhaps 25 reviews, again, that's tied directly to the impressions-based advertisement or like your business profile page. So we treat all businesses the same. But participating in the advertising program allows you to enhance your page with extra bells and whistles. You can never really manipulate or modify your reputation on Yelp.
And that's kind of good too, because it's giving the information and the entire website some integrity, credibility.
Right, and it ensures that consumers, right, are able to trust the information that they're seeing.
I like that. Is it expensive or difficult if I was a local business to get involved in your advertising?
No, actually, the packages currently start, depending on what category, but the packages currently start at $150 and go up from there per month for like the basic enhanced listing product. And it depends on the category that you're in. But when you look at comparables out there, whether it's online or offline, like newspaper ads, print ads, or Yellow Pages, it's not like Yelp is out of the ballpark.
No, that's quite reasonable, because I remember 10 or 15 years ago when Yellow Pages was pretty much the only place you could advertise for geographically located businesses. That was expensive. That was $400, $600, $800 bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not nearly as effective as this.
Right, because this really is layering that notion of third-party testimonials or third-party voice and endorsement, right, if you will.
I like that. And now, if I wanted to go in and I wanted to participate and take a look at my city's reviews, or if I wanted to review something, is that a difficult process? How do I go about doing that?
It's actually really easy. One of the key things that we were looking to do when we created Yelp was make sure that it was easy and quick and fun. So it's the same sort of registration process that you would go through with any site. And as soon as you get the basics in, you're then able to start creating your own profile page. So uploading a photo, hopefully putting in first name, last initial, and some information about yourself, where you're from, where you live currently, all your kind of like fun and kitschy sort of details about yourself that are just more to build out character, if you will. And then writing a review is simple. You just click write a review, and it's very much sort of like a I guess sort of like the same blog entries that you would post.
Yeah.
You just drop in your review, hit publish or hit submit, and it pushes it straight to the site.
That is really easy.
Yeah.
And kind of fun.
And the interesting thing there is that we also, because it's a community-based site, very similar to, say, Wikipedia, we also get a lot of folks who are like, wow, this business closed, or this business, is currently under construction, or, so they're closed for the next 3 months, or the address is wrong, or, do we get like a host of information that is just real-time updates that you can't get anywhere else in any other forum, right? And so being able to have all of that rich data is also very, very helpful for the end user.
That's absolutely true, because anything else that's being currently published, like a Yellow Pages, that's going to have a 6-month lead time on it, so you're really not going to get up-to-the-minute information. And it kind of operates like a little bit of a wiki. If there's any errors, people will jump in and try to help fix those errors.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
People take a lot of pride in their cities and in their reviews, and, as such, they want to really make sure that the information is correct. So we even have folks that just will double-check it on their own. Not, we're not asking people to do this, but we'll just double-check it and send a note into feedback like, hey, I think, your address is off here by a digit, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And photos, too. They upload photos of businesses that they're in.
Oh, you can put photos on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's also really useful.
Yes.
Wow.
Extremely. Storefronts, the interiors of places, especially if you're looking for like group dining, kind of what does that look like inside there? Really kind of helps you assess like, hey, is this the right place for my occasion or whatever it may be.
I like that, and being every phone is pretty much camera ready anyway, that gives you the opportunity to walk in, sit down, order a meal, take a picture of the dish, and upload it to Yelp while you're eating it.
Yeah, that would be the end goal for sure. We don't have that capability currently, but we're working on it.
That's cool. That's something to look forward to. In summary, is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners about Yelp, about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think, on the whole, we're just really excited about the local space. And as we continue to see new communities pop up all across the nation, our goal is definitely going to be to focus on that and help support those communities as they grow. And, for us looking forward, obviously mobile presents a really interesting challenge, as you've noted, for everybody in the local space, not just Yelp. Mm-hmm. And as does, international, we'll look to slowly roll out in the coming years, across international borders, just because we feel like, wow, there's a lot of value to be had there as well. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we remain focused on, really kind of going deep, doing well here in the U.S., and are excited about the future.
That's cool. Where can people find Yelp?
Yelp.com, YELP.com.
That's pretty easy. That's
memorable, great. Punchy.
That's great.
Easy to spell.
Yep. I'd really like to thank Stephanie Ichinose, the Director of Communications for Yelp, for being with us here today to talk about Yelp and social media. Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Lon.
This is great. This has been Lon Safko, the co-author of the Social Media Bible. Be sure to check out our other valuable social media tactics, tools, and strategies that can be found in the Social Media Bible book and its companion website, www.thesocialmediabible.com. And for more information about me, Lon Safko, please go on over to my website at www.lonsafko.com. And again, thank you, Stephanie, for being here today. This was great.
Thanks. It's been great.